My cousin hit me up a few days ago and he said, "Hey, look, I've been watching your YouTube channel and you've convinced me. I've got to start investing and just start working towards financial independence." But then he said, "What do I do next?" And that's a good question, cousin. We need to look into what happens next after you've figured out your net worth, you've decided you want to be financially independent, you paid off all of your high interest debts, and now you're like, I need to start doing it, but I don't know how. So let's get into it. Hey everybody, my name's AJ, and this is The Wealthy Idiots. Today I want to talk about what you do next after you're ready to start your investing journey, and I think a lot of people are a little bit intimidated about this next part. The question about where to start on your financial journey is a little bit difficult. There's a lot of data out there, and there's nothing that really tells you, take this cash, go put here, and then be done with it. It's all pretty confusing. So let's see if we can break it down and tell you what to do next now that you've decided you want to be financially independent. The first thing that you got to do, and this is the most important part, is open a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs are one of the biggest cheat codes in taxes for the United States. It allows you to put money into it. It's after-tax money that you're putting into it, and all of the gains that you make in a Roth IRA are completely tax-free when you take them out in retirement, and you can even take out a little bit before retirement without any kind of taxes or penalties as long as you're just taking out the original principal that you put in. For example, if you put in $1,000, that grows to $2,000, you can go take that original $1,000 out and use it on something, and that second $1,000, because it's all just gains, is something that will continue to grow over time until you get to retirement, which means that you could take it out without any kind of tax penalties once you hit that point. There are two withdrawal rules for taking money out of a Roth IRA penalty-free. The first is you have to be over 59 and a half years old, so that would be a Roth IRA's retirement marker. You don't have to take money out at that point, but that's when you could without paying any kind of penalties. The second qualifier is called the 5-year rule. To not incur any penalties when you take the money out, you have to have at least had your money in or have started your Roth IRA 5 years or more. And then once that 5 years is complete and you're over 59 and a half years old, you can start taking your money out penalty free. This is huge because if you've been paying attention to The Wealthy Idiots before, you've seen how much compound interest can really inflate your wealth over time. And so if you're putting money consistently into a Roth IRA, by the time you retire, the amount of money you put in will be small and the amount of money that's grown on top of it will be huge, and you'll be able to withdraw from this without paying any kind of penalties. And since we play the long-term game here, we don't play the short-term game, this is a really big benefit when it comes to saving money and investing your money smartly and not having to pay huge tax penalties once you hit that retirement stage. There's two main important qualifiers when getting in a Roth IRA. The biggest one is you can't make over a certain amount of money. Because this is such a big cheat code, the IRS doesn't want, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk to be pumping all of their wealth into a Roth IRA. So for year two, this number changes every year, but for 2022, if you're married and filing jointly, then you can invest in a Roth IRA as long as your combined income is less than $204,000. If you're single and filing, your income has to be less than $129,000. Well, that includes most of us. So if you fall into that category, then you need a Roth IRA. There's no other questions about it. You're gonna go get a Roth IRA, and that's your next step. The second important qualifier is that there are limits to a Roth IRA. The IRS doesn't want you putting all your money into this. They want to make sure that you're limited so you don't really go over cheat the tax code once you retire. But still, those limits aren't too crazy, and they're good enough for starting out when it comes to building your wealth and getting started. The limits for a Roth IRA, if you are less than 50 years old, is $6,000 for 2022, and if you're more than 50 years old, it's $7,000 for 2022. Hopefully that goes up in the next couple of years, but this is a pretty good chunk of change, about $500 per month that you can put into these investments, and your gains are going to be tax-free. Now, how does this work? Most people understand that when you get an account with a bank, they understand that you put cash into that account, and various accounts do different things with different kinds of restrictions. So mostly we have experience with a checking account. You can have direct deposit in a checking account. It's usually free as long as your direct deposit is going in there. You can write checks out of that. There's usually no limits to the amount of money that you can move in and out of that account, which makes it ideal for paying bills or moving money around to other accounts. It's usually kind of a central hub for most people's finances. The second account that we're familiar with is a savings account. Usually there's restrictions on moving money in and out of a savings account. It can produce some kind of interest that checking accounts usually don't have, and there's usually a minimum amount of money that you can put in there. The reason that the savings account works this way is that banks want to pay you interest for putting your money into that account, even though it's super duper small, and they're going to use that money to lend to other people or to make investments, and they need to ensure that that money doesn't fluctuate quite as quickly as someone's checking account, because they don't want to have to try and pull those investments back if people start withdrawing. So usually the limit is like 3 times a month you can pull out a certain amount of money, and this is ideal for storing money for things like emergency funds, or if you plan on spending it on something in the future and you're just trying to save your money for, maybe buying a car or something to that effect. So we don't usually advocate on this channel to put money into a savings account. It doesn't pay enough interest. There are other ways to do that, but those are the 2 kinds of accounts that people are most familiar with. Well, it turns out that not all accounts have to have cash in them. And this is a concept I think most people don't have an idea about. You can get an account with a bank or a brokerage, and a brokerage is basically like a bank that holds on to things that are more than cash. And banks can also be brokerages. It's just a title to say that this is an entity that can hold an account that can put things in it that aren't just cash. And when you go open a Roth IRA, it's like opening a savings account. You just call your bank, or you show up in person. And sometimes you can even do it online and send in the application and you say, hey, I want to open a Roth IRA. They'll look at your application, they'll open the Roth IRA, and it's essentially like a savings account. You can then go put cash into this Roth IRA. So as we talked about the contribution limits, for a year you can put $6,000. So you could put $6,000 in right now, or you can set it up. Usually with banks will allow you to set up some kind of automatic transfer, and you can start putting cash into this account. And it's essentially like a savings account. Now you don't want to just keep it in cash, but those are step 1 and step 2 to getting started. Open a Roth IRA with your bank or other brokerage institution, start sticking some cash into it. Once you get that started, you're most of the way to getting going on your financial journey. Those 2 things can be solved by contacting your bank and just talking to them real quick. Go and do that. It shouldn't cost you any money. If it does, there are other banks and institutions out there that will do it for free. And then once you get some cash into that, then we'll start talking about step 2, which is using that cash in order to buy some kind of investment. Now, when you buy that investment stays in the account. You don't have to worry about it. The bank or brokerage that you use will allow you to get into their app, go into the Roth IRA, and they'll have a method for you to find different kinds of investments, whether it be stocks. Sometimes you can even do crypto now. You could even do things like put real estate into a Roth IRA. But we're going to keep it real simple. Start with getting that Roth IRA, put some cash into it, and once you do that, then contact your bank about how it is that you can buy an index fund. Go start researching index funds and look for something that interests you. Index funds are usually a spread out fund where they look at different parts. They usually match it to something specific. So something I like is tech funds. I love tech. I think tech is fun. I want to put my money in tech because I think it has future. So I Google tech funds and I start looking through and seeing what's been around for a while, what has a pretty good return. Is it a major company that's got it? Who else has those index funds? So it might be interesting to know, like if Warren Buffett is holding on to some of this stuff. And then you take whatever index fund that you want to buy, go into your Roth IRA, and just purchase one share of that index fund. And once that hits your account and that index fund is there and you can see it fluctuate over time, you have started. That's, I know that's 3 steps. You got open Roth IRA, put some cash into it, go find an index fund and buy it with that cash. Those 3 steps encompass the first part of your journey into financial independence. And once you've completed that, then we can get more serious about how you manage your money, how you get money into investments, and we can figure out all kinds of fun and interesting things to put your money into that will set you up for financial independence in your retirement. So get on that. Don't hesitate. You could do that before you even pay off your debts. Start small. Could be $100, $50, $20. Usually there's some kind of minimum when you're opening an account, and it's probably something around $100. But whatever it is, just do it. Just do it. Just start. And then once you've completed these 3 steps, and once you've started this first major step into your financial journey, then come on back and we'll start talking about the next stuff here at the Wealthy Idiots. So before you leave, make sure you like and subscribe. Check out our website, wealthyidiots.com. We got all kinds of articles, news, information, calculators. We're adding stuff constantly, and I'll see you guys next time.